building nets from prisms, okay? So I can quickly put together a prism here. Let's say a pretty simple looking prism is we have a rectangular base, okay? Now try to make it, prisms are three-dimensional objects, so I'm going to make this a, there we go. So I have to give it a kind of 3 dimensions, so I have to put some, so you can see that it has depth to it. Then we're going to copy the same shape we had here. Copy, paste, put that in behind, and it looks like we got our rectangular prism here, right? But in this view, it can sometimes be difficult to tell how many faces there are. Like really this, I'm going to color in what looks like the back side. I would never actually see that part. And it almost looks like I'm coloring in the side there. So with this like transparent view, it can be tough to count faces. So when we convert things to nets, it can be a lot easier. Now I can tell you, because I know we have a bottom, a top, and then we have a front, a back, and we have a left, and a right. So a total of 6, right? But what do they all look like when they pulled out? Well, I got a pretty neat program here. Now this is a triangular based prism. So let's go to what we had. We had a cube, here, square based prism, trapezoid. Okay, that'll be good enough. Square based prism, okay? So where's our square in here? This is a rectangular based prism. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Okay, this is, even though the title says square, this is our rectangle, okay? When I look at it from this view, it only looks like it has one face, but as we start to turn it, things change. So we're going to change the colors of it. We're going to call this the top, and the bottom, we'll change them to blue.
Multicolored, okay, for the sides.
Yeah, we'll do the front and back yellow. Front and back yellow. And then we'll do the sides maybe red. So one side and another side. So together we've done 6. But what's neat about this program, I can zoom out a little, I can turn it into a net. Okay, now I know it's not easy to see, but as we pull it down and zoom out, remember the top and the bottom are blue, okay? And then we had our, I think our front and back and our left and our right. So here's our net. And you can kind of spin the net around. There's so many different ways it looks. But essentially when we're putting it back together, okay, maybe it'll be easier if we kind of have a side view. You can see as it's pulling apart here, here's the top, here's the bottom, here's the right, the left, and then the front and the back. And as we pull them out, we create our net. And we can create nets from any of the prisms, okay? Now this is a very popular type one, rectangular prism, but you'll see the titles will change. Here's a square or a triangular prism. And the reason it's triangular is because there's a triangle face. And then the other sides are all rectangles, okay? In order to be a prism, all the other sides are rectangles. And we're just going to pull this out and zoom out a little. Same idea. We have our 2 faces, right? 1 face, 2 face. And then we'll just call these our sides. Side, side, and side. So we always have our faces. And depending how many edges the face has, that's how many sides there are. So a triangle has 3 edges, therefore there's 3 faces. With our rectangular square prism, if we have our, we'll call this the face. Okay, so face and face, and then we'll do our sides all the one color again. 1, 2. Yeah, that's right. 3, 4. Okay, and as we pull it apart, we know a rectangle has 4 sides. So we have the top and the bottom, and then 4 rectangles for the sides. Okay, so we can get to more complex shapes. This one's called Pentagon. Okay, so a pentagon is the face. And the face has 5 edges, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because it's a prism, the other side is also going to be a pentagon. So we have our 2 faces. And then to be a prism, everything else has to be a rectangle. So because there's 5 edges, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rectangles. And as we pull it apart, okay, and you can pull it apart many different ways. Zoom out a little. We have 1 face, 2 face, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rectangular sides to it. Okay, and all prisms are kind of built off that idea. However many number of edges the face has, that's how many rectangular sides there will be. So here's one, and I'm not going to color in all the sides. Dodecagonal, I think, is 10. Let's see. Let's count it together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I lied, 12. This one has 12 sides. Now it's pretty obvious to see the 2 faces. We'll color them blue. Okay, and then we'll pull the net apart. Okay, and as we zoom out, we have our 2 faces, and then it looks like.
Can we get a top view?
Yeah, this is technically a bird's eye view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 rectangular sides. So you can build nets out of any of these prisms, and we can spin it around with a vertical view. Pretty neat little program, eh? Okay, so that's the idea of how you can build faces. You have your two you can build nets. You have the two faces, and then you have one of the sides connecting them, and then a whole bunch of other sides just attached to the other edges, right? Our triangle, we had our, pull it apart, we have our two faces, right? We have one of the sides connecting them, and then we just have rectangles on the other sides. You can always build nets that way with prisms. Okay. Let's deconstruct one ourselves. If we say this top here is one of the faces, so this is like a square-based pyramid, and this bottom is the other face, we have our two faces. So because we know they're squares, I can essentially create two squares. We have our, I have to give myself a lot of room here, but here's our one square. Assuming we have the right dimensions, it may not be perfectly to scale. And then we have a, scroll down just a little, we have our another square. So we'll highlight them in yellow. Okay. So we have our two squares. One square and two squares. Now, how many edges are there in a square?
4.
4. So that means we're going to have 4 rectangles. Okay, so I can quickly, very beautiful, assume they're all the same size because it's a square. Okay, I'm going to copy these over. I know you can't copy this fast with your by hand, but because I got the computer, I can. So we know we have 4 rectangles as sides. Now, in order to build the net, I could put one of the rectangles between the two faces, and then the rest of the rectangles, I just connect to the other sides of one of the faces. I could, let's see, I'll turn 2 of them. Turn this one. I could decide to connect them all up here. Okay. I could connect one down here. Okay. I can put them both down here if I like. Turn that off. I can put this one up on top. Whoops, I don't really have the space for that. Or I can put it down here. But that's a pretty simple way. Let's go whole page. A simple way to build the net. We have our two faces. However many edges there are. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. So because there's 4 edges, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 other rectangles, right? And we have to create the rectangles kind of with the widths of whatever the edges are. But we build those rectangles. We have 4. And then we just attach them to one of the other faces. So, and that can seem confusing. When we do another one, let's try a triangular one, okay? So let's say, this will be a little harder to see. Let's say I'm going to build a triangle here. Okay. And I'm going to extend it. And to keep everything the same, I'll just copy stuff over. So 1, 2, 3, and then the triangle. I'll clone. I'll pull these out to the back. 1. Clone 2. And clone this one. 3. Okay, so we've built our triangular prism, right? The triangle the prism has 2 triangle faces. Maybe we should change the color. We have 2 triangle faces. Okay. So because triangles have how many edges?
3.
3. So we have 1, 2, 3 edges. That means how many rectangles are there going to be?
3.
3. There's going to be 3. So when we go to build it, I'm going to go down the page a bit. I know I'm going to start with a triangle. So let's see if I got one. Beautiful. I got 1 triangle, and we're going to need 2 of them. So let's clone it. Those are the 2 faces. Okay, and we need to connect them. They need to be connected just the way, let's see where that one was. We can connect their bottoms if we like, okay, something like that. So we need to connect them. So we want their edges to be the same because there's a rectangle. So let's draw the 3 rectangles, sorry, to start. We'll do it about this way. 1, we'll clone them. 1,
Scrap paper.
yeah, 2, 3. So we know we're going to have 3 rectangles. We need to connect the 2 faces. So we can make sure the bases are kind of connected if we like. So there's a base of one triangle, a base of the other. We pull the rectangle between them. Not perfect here. Okay. So those 2 faces are connected. And then we take the rectangles and we just connect them to the other sides. So assuming they're roughly set up, there, we connect that one to that side. And this one will have to spin quite a bit. I think it's going to have to be on an angle like this. And you probably needed to be a bit wider, this rectangle. And that, since we can freehand it ourselves, this one didn't quite fit. So instead of doing that, I can freehand the net. I can do it like this. 1, 2, 3, and now it kind of fits. Okay, let's delete our page, and we'll go back up. And now we have our net for our triangle. I'll get them.
You might want.
We have our triangle here, and we're